Hello, everybody. This is Shadow of the Moon, and today I'm actually going to be doing a Magic the Gathering deck profile for you. This was going to be on my Kithkin deck, which, if you don't know mythology about Kithkin, before the D&D set came out, the core sets and everything came out a couple years ago, Kithkins were actually considered halflings. They were hobbits, and this block, more Lorwyn, Morningtide, Evening Tide and all that stuff, that's actually what got me into playing Magic the Gathering. I started playing at around the time that they had really high fantasy, which I guess was perfect for me because that was stuff that I was really, really into, especially at the time. Now, Kithkin decks are a lot of fun because, first off, this is a budget deck because it's really nothing but weenies, and the whole object of the deck is to be able to get a bunch of low-level monsters and have them all pumped up and make them ridiculously strong and just keep constantly attacking while you're producing tokens. And the tokens are going to be acting as the monsters as well. They're going to be attacking, so pretty much it's not uncommon to be able to get about 10, 12, 15 different Kithkin on the field. And I always thought the lore behind it was really, really interesting too. That, talking about like the thought wept and everything, and talking about like how a lot of them lived, and it was just a really, really interesting, definitely time period for Magic. It's hard to believe that this is actually considered vintage or legacy now. After 4 more years, I mean, this is still modern technically, but in like 3-4 more years, this is actually not even going to be in the modern block anymore. So it's just crazy. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get straight on into it. And I'm just going to show you, this is a pure mono white deck. You can splash it with red and splash it with green if you choose. I actually do have a couple tech cards that I'm going to be showing you in kind of like a side deck, that if I'm facing off against somebody who maybe has like more like big strong beaters and stuff, monsters that get pumped up pretty quickly and everything. So first off, I've got 4 copies of the Figure of Destiny. This guy is actually amazing because he is a Kithkin, but he's a Kithkin, and he becomes a spirit. So with every time that you pumping up with mana, he becomes either a 2/2 for 1 Kithkin spirit. He becomes a spirit for 4 warrior. He becomes, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He becomes a 8/8 Kithkin Spirit Warrior with flying and first strike, which is amazing, especially with this deck, because since he is a Kithkin, he's working quite well with the formula, because he's getting pumped up with like the Wizard of Sen, he's getting pumped up with like Surge of Theptweft, he's getting pumped up with a lot of the Kithkin cards. Okay, and then we have 4 copies of Gold Meadow Steward. Gold Meadow Steward is a 2/2 for 1, so basically the only option is you just have to reveal a Kithkin card in your hand to be able to play this card, or you pay 3, but because he's a 2/2 for 1, I mean, that's a very, very good trade-off, because honestly, it's easy way to get a 2/2 beater out on the field, and he's very, very, very strong for that, because it's like game 1, all you do is tap mana, you can immediately play him, because you're going to have Kithkins in this hand, obviously. Then you've got 4 copies of Sen's Hair. Sen's Hair is actually really good, because whenever he attacks, he gets +1/+1 for at the end of turn for each attacking Kithkin, which this deck can get crazy. So obviously he can get really, really big with a bunch of +1/+1 counters on it, because he's gonna be attacking around the same time that you probably have like 10, 15 Kithkin. I'm not lying when I say that. This deck is so much fun because of how fast it is, and it works so well. If you're looking for something casual and just like a white deck that's like a white weenie deck that's not, and it doesn't cost too much, this is a perfect deck for you. Okay, and then we've got our mana reducers. We've got Bally, Rush, Bananet. He's going to make it to where your Kithkin spells and soldier spells cost 1 less to cast, meaning that like a lot of your soldiers and stuff will make it either be 1 or they'll be free. This guy right here, obviously he'll be a 1. The first card that I showed you, or the second, not the first card, the Gold Rush Stewart, he's going to become free. So yeah, very, very important in this deck, because you do want even more mana reducing cards. I only run 20 lands in here. 4 of them are the special lands, and then the 16 is literally just plains, because it's so easy to get a lot of these monsters out on the field. And then we have 4 copies of Wizard Sen. He's a pumper. He gives all their creatures that are Kithkin +1/+1. So he helps the deck out a lot, obviously, to be able to kind of make it to where you're constantly getting +1/+1s. And a lot of these, I mean, when you're facing monsters that are literally have like, they're like 5/5s, and you're facing like 10 of them, that really can be kind of like, seriously just like wow. And then I've got 3 copies of Kithkin Harbinger. Kithkin Harbinger, I've got 3 in here because she is a little bit expensive considering all the other cards are usually just 2 or 1. She lets you search for a Kithkin card when she's put into play and add it to your add it to the top of your library, so you make sure you draw it. This is actually a very good card because this can help you get certain Kithkin cards that you need, such as the legendary, or can get you the mana reducing cards like Valley Rush Banneret, and just any of the spells that you have. And then we've got Kinsbale Border. I've got 2 of these because this is cost 3, and then basically when it comes into play, it comes into play with +1/+1 counter for each other Kithkin that I control. And then when Kithkin is put into a graveyard from play, I can put a +1/+1 count creature token, or get a 1/1 creature token for each creature their counter on it. So basically meaning that she can put a token creature into play when she dies, but mainly you're going to be using her because you're going to be getting her +1/+1 for other Kithkin creatures that you control and everything. And then lastly, we've got Kithkin Rabble. I thought this was kind of a unique tech card because for every other white permanent, it comes into play with an additional +1/+1, so that's why it's a star, meaning that this thing can become like a 10/10, 8/8, 10/10, or whatever you have, if you have a lot of white permanents in the in play already. This is usually more of a late game card because, like, say you want to use this and after you've had like a bunch of Kithkins and you've got a bunch of them powered up. And then the 2 legendaries I'm playing Brigade, Hero of Kinsbale, because she does burn damage. Basically, she'll do the damage to where it gives you deal damage to target attacking or blocking creature, and she has first strike. So, and also since I have Valley Rush Banneret, it makes it basically where she's a 3. So that's going to be it for the monsters. As you can see, there's a lot of monsters that I play in this deck. So then we have 4 copies of Malicious Pride. This card is insane. It's an enchantment for Kithkin, and whenever a non-token creature I control attacks, I may pay a mana, and if I do, I can put a 1/1 creature, a Kithkin creature token into play, tapped and attacking. So every single time that a attacking creature that's not a token attacks, I can put a token onto the battlefield that's a tapped and attacking. So this is a good way to be able to get more resources and to be able to get more Kithkin onto the field. Then we have 4 copies of Surge of Thoughtweft. This is your draw card. This lets you draw a card. So creatures I control get +1/+1 for the end of turn, and if I control a Kithkin, draw a card. This is a great way to be able to kind of like drop this when your opponent is, when you're attacking your opponent or when you're blocking. And then I've got 4 copies of Glorious Charge. Once again, this deck is more of a budget deck. I don't really plan on really updating it because there's not really a whole lot you can do for Kithkin. I mean, you can put like power spells and stuff in here, but I'm just mainly in it just showing you for like a budget option. So Glorious Charge obviously is going to give you +1/+1 till the end of turn to all white creatures, so it's a good way to drop it on your opponent. And then lastly, I just got 2 of the Veterans Armaments. This is the enchantment. So it equips with a creature and gets +1/+1 to the end of turn for each attacking creature, so that's really good. You can equip it for 2, and when this comes into play, I can attach it to a creature that I have. Alright, so that's going to be it for these spells. Now let's move on. So basically, I'm running just the 4 copies first off. Everything else I'm going to be showing you, it's just 16 lands because it's just land. So this is going to be your special land. This is, comes into play, you reveal a Kithkin card, or it comes into play tapped, and you can add a mana to your mana pool, and then also has Reinforce, where if you pay 2, you can discard this card to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So it's a good way to kind of not only, you know, doesn't come into play tapped, because obviously you're going to be having Kithkins, you're going to be obviously having those in your deck because it's a pure Kithkin deck, and then on top of that, you'll be getting a +1/+1 counter. So obviously I run a lot of tokens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, because I have a lot. It's easy to get a lot of creatures. And then this is actually going to just be my sideboard. This is kind of like my side deck. So we've got 1 copy of Godok Teague is actually really a great card for monsters who have really high attack power. So anything 4 or greater can't be cast. So he kind of locks people in. And then I've got 3 copies of the Preeminent Captain. I have thought about putting this in my main deck, but I just can't really find room for it. So if you maybe if you can find a suggestion you know, and be like, hey, change this out for this, it actually works better. That would be really, really cool, and I would appreciate that. But as of right now, he's just kind of in the side deck, just because I don't really have room for him. And then I've got 2 of the special lands, and then 3 of the green. This is going to go with the Kithkin, so that way I can make sure that I draw it and have the mana to pay for it. Alright, so that's going to be it for this profile. I hope you enjoyed it. I love Kithkins. I love this deck. It's so much fun to play with because it being a weenie deck, and it being a deck that just, it swarms, and it's very, very cheap. I mean, Kithkins haven't really been reprinted, sadly, in a long time, and I don't really see them being reprinted now that they have actual halflings and stuff. But this was always next to, like, Tree Folk and, like, the Merm Folk and everything. I always thought this block and the sets were just a lot of fun because I'm really big into fantasy, so the idea of having, like, halflings and stuff, have like a halfling deck and everything, was always something that I always thought was cool. So, alright, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and with that, see you guys next time. Later.